Every day Jack would take a ragged piece of cloth and fry it in a pot of boiling oil. Then he left it under the blazing sun to dry out. Finally he bit his fingertip and carved mystical symbols onto it. He kept doing this until his master was dying. That day he finally pulled out that carefully prepared cloth, thinking it was time for his master to enter the soul banner. But Master Gus just laughed coldly and called him a fool. He said his power was 3 whole levels above Jack's. That ragged cloth could never capture him. He grew more worked up as he spoke, almost unable to stop himself from striking Jack down. But Jack's next words stopped him cold. Jack explained this soul banner was something he threw together with scraps. It only had basic soul catching and nurturing powers. He told his master take it or leave it. Hearing this, Master Gus asked puzzled, "Are you just trying to save my spirit?" Jack nodded, saying as long as the soul wasn't scattered, there was still hope. Maybe one day he'd become an immortal and could rebuild his master's body. But to his surprise, Master Gus scolded him in disappointment. He said Jack was too sentimental and had none of a dark cultivator's ruthlessness. If word got out, he had a soul banner holding a master's spirit. Could he keep it safe? It was just asking for trouble. Jack was getting annoyed. He asked straight up if his master was entering the banner or not. Master Gus stayed quiet a long while. Finally he let out a sigh. A faint smoke rose from his face, forming into a hazy figure, floating toward the soul banner. Jack chanted softly, "Capture the dark banner," stirred, sucking his master's spirit inside. Suddenly the banner's folds glowed, morphing into a ghostly face. Then Master Gus' amazed voice emerged from the banner. He said this artifact was something else. How could it nurture souls so well? He thought if he were in Jack's shoes, using the same stuff, he'd never make something this good. Jack grinned proudly, saying the soul banner gathered dark energy. It needed the Kun Sun pair and 4 dark trigrams, so he tweaked the crafting method. As Master Gus heard Jack talk on, he suddenly realized with shock, in the art of forging treasures, he was actually falling behind Jack's thinking. He wondered if this kid was a real genius. Maybe this kid could actually reach immortality. Just as Master Gus felt mixed emotions, he suddenly saw Jack placing talismans on his corpse. He asked what his disciple was doing. Jack answered without looking back, saying he'd turn his master's body into a zombie. No point letting it go to waste. Master Gus was speechless. He thought this kid was meant for greatness. A few days later, Jack quickly refined his master's bones, tucking them into a storage pouch. He was about to leave, to start his cultivation journey, when his master's voice suddenly spoke in his ear, asking where he was headed. Jack then remembered his master wasn't fully gone. He replied he had reached the spirit awakening stage, and needed to form his energy core next. Master Gus thought he'd gather herbs in the mountains to make spirit pills, but Jack shook his head. He had no plan to waste 10 years brewing spirit pills. Hearing this, Master Gus mused aloud, asking if Jack meant to use the blood refining method. He warned killing too many would create a storm of vengeful spirits. If righteous cultivators caught wind, with his current power he'd be dead for sure. But Jack just smiled and asked a weird question. "Master, what's the difference between people and beasts?" Master Gus, hearing this, exclaimed in surprise, "You want to use animal flesh and blood to cultivate? That's madness. When I taught you blood refining, I said, beast blood can't be used. It damages your spirit, turns you into something not human, not ghost." Jack replied seriously. The books only list the blood refining steps, but never explain the why behind it. He wanted to figure out what in animal blood drives cultivators insane. Maybe there was a fix for this. But Master Gus spoke with a weary tone, saying for ages no one solved this puzzle. What made Jack think he could crack it? Jack gazed into the distance. Maybe someone already found an answer, but kept it hidden. Besides just walking old paths, how could he ever become immortal? Master Gus fell quiet at his words. Fine then. He couldn't teach this disciple anymore. He'd just wait and see how far this kid could go. Not long after, Jack found 4 wild wolves in the woods. He started to move closer slowly, but the most alert wolf pricked up its ears and looked right at him. He had to stop in his tracks. As a spirit awakening cultivator, he was still just flesh and blood. It was time for his dead master to step up once more.